Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Beyond Humanity, Colonies. Colonies is brought to you by Three-Headed Monster. It's for 1 to 5 players, ages 16 and up, and games range anywhere from 60 to 180 minutes. In Colonies, Earth has been devastated by wars, overpopulation, as well as resource consumption. Now, you and thousands of other hopeful colonists head out into deep space looking for a new homeworld. Once you find that world, you will land the ARC module there and try to terraform it. You as the players are going to take on the role of managers, trying to balance the needs of all these colonists while shuttling them down to the surface and building out the structure to house them, to feed them, and to care for them, as well as having technological advancements. And your goal here is to separate from Earth. You don't want Terran intervention or help, however it may be needed, but too much of that help can make you lose the game. Now, this is a pretty unique game, and it offers a lot of technological advances as far as board gaming goes. You know, it is a hybrid. You are using an app. However, the app is not intrusive in any way. It really is just an informational piece and to help you keep track of what managers have activated what modules or whatever political things that they might be doing throughout the game. Again, just keeping track of everything for you so you don't have to do all that upkeep and maintenance yourself. Uses RFID technology in the cards. You're going to be scanning your manager discs just to keep track of things throughout the game. And it really does work well. The other nice thing is that all these miniatures or the models or the modules for the colony have lights, and they will flash at different rates based on their construction, or if they happen to fall in construction because of riots or disasters that happen to befall the planet, which can happen. So this game really does offer some unique things. So let's jump in and take a closer look. Now, just some basic notes about setup. Obviously, you want to gather all the different modules and put them to the side. And based on what managers are in the game are going to dictate some of the additional modules that get added to the basic set. Now, this whole module build out starts with the ARC module. You'll want to turn it on first and then get the app rolling and have it connect. Now, each player gets their own player board for their manager, along with their disc, some starting resources, Terran goods, credits, and cards. A couple of the cards are like private objectives that you're going to try to achieve by the end of the game, which will give you additional victory points. Because at its heart, it is a semi-cooperative game, although they're going to have several modes, including a solo play and full cooperative. But at its heart, it is that semi-cooperative, and you are really working together to build out this colony, but at the end, you do want to have the most victory points. Now, just a quick look at these manager discs that you're going to be using. These are going to be used to track your worker placement, the things that you are doing throughout the game. But more importantly, really, they are going to be used to scan when you put a decree into place or when you build a module, keeping track of what manager is tied to what part of the game. And again, the app takes care of all that, so you don't have to remember any of that. And the cards just get discarded once you put them into play, things like that. And then there is also this card. Based on the player count will determine how many more votes it takes to get a module built. Each of the modules has a set value on it, what it takes. And you're going to use those decree cards to vote. And everyone at the table can add decree cards to any one particular module, even though it's tied to someone else. And it is in your best interest to work together to get these modules built because things are going to go wrong rapidly. This is very much a high pressure situation. You're desperate to survive and keep the colony alive without Terran intervention and without hazards or riots or technical problems like flooding and things. So there's lots of reasons to work together, but you do want to be the most advantageous, the best governor or manager. And there is a governor. So the first player marker basically is the governor, and there are ways to change governor hands. But if you hold on to governor throughout the game and you're making good choices, boy, you're going to be lined up for points at the end of the game. At least that was our experience in our play. But there's lots of directions this game can go based on what's happening and what planet you choose and so forth. So let's jump in and take a look, an overview of kind of how the app works and just some of the basics of the worker placement spots. All right, first let's jump in and take a look at this app because it's really gonna set up the world for you. You're gonna take the ARC module, you're gonna make sure it's on, and then start the app, let it connect, and then you're gonna be picking planet. And the planets range from like very, very hard to super easy, normal, things like that. And there's like 700,000 different possibilities of planets. So these planets really dictate a lot for you though, because they show what resources are available on that world. So pick your planet wisely. And then you're gonna pick an auxiliary fleet. And auxiliary fleets are nice because these will give you potentially more starting items for your managers. So there's a lot of different choices here, and it varies greatly again with each of the planets that you visit, and I've seen a ton of different auxiliary fleet options. It's pretty cool. And then at that point, you're going to start adding your managers, letting the game know what managers are in play. And you're just simply going to take your disk and put it on top of the ARC module and let it scan, and then you're good to go. It puts everybody into the game. And again, this is key because it's keeping track of a lot. Stuff maintenance that you don't have to worry about. You're going to be adding, again, modules. You're going to be doing decrees, and all that's going to be kept tracked based on what manager is in play. And you'll scan that disk every time you do one of those types of things. So this game spans 20 months for you to survive and build out this colony. Now, each month is a round, and it's divided basically into 7 phases. We're not going to go like strictly phase 1, phase 2. I'm just going to give you kind of overview here of how the different things work. On your turn, you have 2 worker actions that you can take. It's going to go in clockwise order and then reversed. So the last player gets to go first on the second set of actions. Now, if you have an assistant, that will give you a 3rd set of actions, which can be really helpful, but it does require upkeep. There are things that require upkeep in this game. Specifically, if you're getting ready to build a module and you didn't have enough votes, that will require upkeep. And if you have an assistant, that requires upkeep as well. The upkeep here is based on credits and Terran goods, so you have to have those stockpiles as well. But let's take a look at these worker placement spots. So a lot of what you're doing in this game is gathering resources. So those worker placement spots are definitely geared towards that. Things like credits, things like Terran goods, and of course political advantage, as well as getting more decree cards. And decree cards are super important because that's what you're using to put political decrees out into the colony, as well as using those cards to vote on new modules that are getting placed in the colony. So those are all really important resources, and they're going to vary on their usage. You know, some of the credits are going to be used for upkeep. Some credits are used to actually activate decree cards. And then there's other ways like Terran goods, again used for upkeep, but you are going to probably need political advantage for some of these decree cards. Now, also important to note that decree cards, when you do use these, they don't all require that you have a cost associated with them. They might have strict rules about what happens. Let's take a look at that next. So activating a decree card is not part of the worker placement part of the game. It is a phase towards the end of every month where you, as the manager, get to decide if you want to activate any one card. And these cards vary greatly, and they have costs, like I said. So either you're going to be paying credits, you're going to be playing political advantage, or maybe there's no cost associated. However, there's always a cost. There might be negative things that happen based on putting this card into play. And the icons in here are going to dictate like happiness, security, and technical, as well as it may affect like stock levels of your particular outpost as well. And it may affect the other players at the table. They may have to lose decree cards, or they might gain decree cards based on the card that gets put into play. Now, just because you have a card and you put it into play does not mean necessarily it's going to be voted in or acted upon. So the way it works is that you will scan your card over the ARC module and then associate your manager with that card. And then at the end of the month, you get results showing if that card passed. And if it passed, then you are going to reap the benefits. So obviously a big part of what you're doing in this game is building out this colony, which is pretty fun. So you're going to be looking for a module tile. And based on the needs of the colony will be dictated here in the app. So you can kind of keep an eye on what's going on. In this case, we're going to build a life support system because obviously oxygen, right? And it is advantageous for all the players to work on this. So when you do get a module and put it in place in front of you, you get to vote on it immediately. And all that means is you use a decree card and slide under it face down, because no longer can that decree be used to activate in the other phase. But the thing here is that all the players can be voting on that, again using the worker placement to do so, trying to enact this module. Now the life support requires one vote just naturally for itself. But then you look at the player count, giving you a total of 3 votes needed to pass this module. And so if the last phase of every month is when you'll actually build, if your module has enough votes, then you get to place it into the colony. And ultimately, you as the manager get to decide where to place it. You can take advice from everybody else, but there is some synergy that you try to create. And as you play this game over and over, you start to really kind of figure out and learn the synergy and where the different modules actually might work more advantageously. That's part of the fun that I found as well. But the thing here is that you will be connecting an arm and then you'll connect it to the base. And there's lights on each of the modules. They'll be quickly flashing, showing that the module is now being constructed. Just because you put it in place does not mean it's ready to go. So through potentially 1 or 2 months or even more, you could build out a module. So it's not just going to be an immediate thing. And not only do the lights help you keep track of the progress, but the app in the bottom left corner is going to show progress on that module as well as you progress through the game. And then, when the module is done and put in place, you'll get the benefits, whatever the card calls for. And then the tile goes next to the main worker placement board. Some of these tiles are going to have additional worker placement spots, but some don't. Next, let's take a look at expeditions and research. So those again are worker placement spots on the board. And when you do an expedition, that's the first step of getting an artifact card. The artifact card will then go at the top of your player board and you'll fill one of the slots that it calls for. In this case, it requires 3 credits or 1 Terran good. And you will put those resources on the card. And then the next time you take that action, that exploration action, then you can fill in the next slot. Doing so will then remove those resources and move it down to the research spot. Then you'll have to use research actions in order to flush out and finish this card. And once you do, then you'll flip the card over and do what it says. Now, these are all kinds of things, and a big part of what these are to give you additional victory points at the end of the game. But they may benefit the colony as well, but they may just benefit you as a manager. So you'll follow the instructions on the card, but these are items that you've found. Maybe it was a crashed satellite. Maybe it was a special mineral. It is truly like this exploration process and figuring out what it is. It's kind of a neat side aspect to the game, just giving you kind of another personal goal to do. And the last couple actions let's take a look at is the fact that you can hire an assistant. The assistant, again, is what's going to give you a 3rd action for every month, but does require that you have Terran goods to pay the upkeep of that assistant. Then you have campaigning. And really, this is all about getting your decree cards passed in the later phase of the month. So if you're running a campaign, your ideas are way better than everybody else's. So maybe your card might get passed at the end of the month. So this is a way to try to ensure that you're hedging your bets, so to say, that the colonists are going to believe in your ideas. Now, for all these worker placement spots, you have a base card that relates directly to the ARC module. And when you add, again, modules to the ARC, then you potentially are going to get more worker placement spots that may or greatly enhance how many resources you can pull or what you can do throughout the game. So there's a couple different ways for this game to end. Obviously, there's bad things. So if you have too much writing or you get too much help from Earth, that will end the game. And that's represented in the top of the app, top right. And if there's total depopulation of your colony, it's going to end the game as well. And there's even some fun hidden things that even I don't know about yet, and I'm looking forward to exploring and seeing what happens. Now, to win the game, you complete all 20 months. You've conducted potentially up to 15 different modules, And you have 15,000 citizens. Those are all ways for the game to come to an end in a positive light, so to say. And then you calculate score. So the app will take care of electing a president at the end based on how good you were at campaigning and how good you were getting your decrees passed, modules built, and it may be if you held on to the government spot for longer than the other managers. Who knows? So it will calculate all that for you and give you those results at the end of the game saying who was elected president. And there are definitely points associated with that. And then you have your personal goals as well as artifacts that you may have acquired and finished. But like this one in particular, you have at least twice as much credits in your repository as any other player, giving you 20 additional points at the end of the game. So these private objectives are very important to work on throughout. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, there's a lot of technical aspects to this game, and it truly is prototype. So I was amazed at how well it played, though, because coming from the tech industry myself, there's a lot of hurdles and challenges they had to overcome. And one of the things you're probably wondering about is that how intrusive is the app? Can I just play the game on the app? No, it really is just a stat tracker. Help you keep track of things, all the minutia that you don't have to manually track anywhere. So that worked really well. And of course, again, the game is worker placement. The heart of it is that. And there's all kinds of things that can go bad. I mean, it is a very reactionary type of game. It's high pressure. You're trying to keep people happy, watching all those levels, trying to build out the right modules, and it's a balancing act for sure. And working semi-cooperative with your players does come into play. I mean, you can have riots, like I said, you can have flooding in the colony. You can have just terrible things happen where modules crash and they have to be rebuilt. So it adds to the suspense and pressure of the game for sure. But ultimately, folks, if this looks like something that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.